Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Two Guys Talking Sports. It's our college edition, and we have got to basically unload our feelings for a little bit.
Hold on. They don't deserve to be shown on this TV.
Normally, we cover both South Carolina and Clemson, but obviously, we're recording this on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And Clemson will play tomorrow night. So we get to just spend our time telling you how bad the South Carolina Gamecocks were.
So buckle up, everybody,
Yeah.
because we stink.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. There was nothing good about this game to me. Rattler looked good.
We had bright spots,
Right.
but we couldn't build off those
Yeah.
bright spots.
Yeah, couldn't run the ball. Offensive line is atrocious.
So I've got a stat for you. Okay, so going into this game, everybody knew North Carolina's defense was, put the clip up, terrible, poop. Last year, North Carolina allowed 17 sacks.
Yeah.
Or excuse me,
They
they
got-
had 17 sacks
Right.
all season.
Yeah.
They got almost over
They got
50%
yeah.
of that last night.
Yep, 9 sacks.
And I don't know if that is a result of them maybe improving in the offseason.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Or-
I think that they definitely knew that their defense was an issue. They knew that they had a Heisman candidate quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The offense is going to be good. And I think that North Carolina knew that they had to
You can change
improve.
that.
Yeah, they had to improve their defense. And I think some of it was they improved, and some of it was we just did. I don't know, the
All right.
offensive line. And I kind of knew this was how it was going to go going into the week.
The big three, and I'm sorry to cut you off, the key areas we were most concerned about this season showed last night.
Yeah, and that's I kind of knew coming into this week. Like Beamer did his press conference on Wednesday, and he comes out and the first thing he said was, "I'm just going to be honest with you guys, we ain't practiced good."
Yeah.
All right. Well, I knew right then.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be good for us.
And
then they released the depth chart, and it's like two
Or-
offensive line positions are either this guy or this guy. Like
Yeah, there's
you
a
don't
lot of
know who your
positions
starting
that-
linemen are
yeah.
the week of the game.
And that's the position group that needs to have continuity.
Right,
Where it's
yeah.
got and we lost 3 offensive
Right.
linemen from last year, and they weren't the best. Let's be real
Right.
here. But
But
they
they played
picked it up.
together.
Yeah. And it didn't start out great. Your
Yeah.
best defensive player, who is only a sophomore, Nick Emanwari,
yeah.
gets hurt literally the first play of the game. He goes out, tries to come back in, hamstring just couldn't go.
Right.
Secondary,
I think the secondary is better than what they showed. Again, if you cannot keep your offense on the field long
Yeah.
enough to do something, your
Yeah.
defense gets so gassed that, and it's not like, with offense, you can run out different receivers, different running backs, stuff like that
Yeah.
as a drive goes. 9 times out of 10, when that defense gets on the field, besides a few linemen, defensive linemen, those defensive backs, they're out there. That's it.
and another thing I see myself looking past sometimes. I need to realize North Carolina has a great offense.
Yeah, very
the only
good.
thing that prevented them from being any kind of sick, they did make the AC championship last
Right.
year, but the thing that held them back the most last year was their defense.
Exactly.
Their offense is very,
Yeah,
very,
I mean,
very,
they have a
very
legit
talented.
Heisman candidate quarterback.
But I just
and
had
we
a-
made him look better.
And I always had it they were without their 2 top receivers
Yep.
due to ineligibility
Yep.
and injury. They have a new offensive coordinator, so I thought, okay, maybe that's starting to shift
Yeah.
in our direction. And
The other thing is, just like
Didn't
our
work at
offensive
all.
line, the defensive line is getting no pressure.
No.
So then, really, if you got a quarterback that can sit back there for 3, 4, 5 seconds, it makes it so much more difficult
Yeah.
on those DBs. So that's why they didn't play great,
No.
but I don't want to put a lot of it on the DBs because that's a position where if somebody else doesn't do their job,
Yeah.
it makes sure it's exponentially harder to do.
I mean, we had 2 interceptions last night. We had a couple. The issue is the big busted coverages that we had
Right.
were big mistakes.
Right.
I know there was one play where we had gotten pressure on Drake May,
Right.
but he's very, some people may not realize he's pretty agile back there,
Right.
and he was just going around maneuvering back there. And DBs can, the DBs and the linebackers that are guarding the receivers or tight ends
Yeah.
can only hold them for so long.
Right.
When they're just constantly running around, and it was a 3rd and long, a 3rd and 12 conversion that they got for a first down, and that kills any type of momentum you have going in, on defense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just
And
It was one thing after another.
It was more frustrating on the offensive side.
For sure.
Like I said, we knew going in the run game was going to be an issue. Offensive line was going to be an issue. I was not a big fan of the trick play on the first. I love that Beamer will approach things differently and will sometimes think outside the box. Right. But when you've got a lot of question marks on offense, you've got a new offensive coordinator, you want to, and like the whole preseason, we're talking about we need to get Spencer in a rhythm, and your first play call is a trick play.
Right, yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular, but
I would have rather them say, all right, let's just run 4 verticals on the first play, and we're just going to heave one.
Throw it deep. Throw it deep.
Let's just
Throw
do that. Like, if that's what you want to do.
Throw it down.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do, to start the game off is have like a big, opening play.
Yeah.
Sure, go deep. But the trick play is like, all right, well, now we just put ourselves behind.
Yeah,
and we're already, weak in positions like offensive line, where that offensive line, you don't really think about it. They need rhythm too. They need to get to where they feel comfortable, pushing somebody around, getting 2 or 3 yards on a run, being able to stop them from getting sacks. And when you're doing all these things and you're all over the place and you can't get anything going, nobody's in a rhythm.
And I'm sure it took a second or a couple, and it was clearly obvious. Like, it took that drive to kind of, I think, get Logans comfortable.
Right.
He's been an offensive coordinator, but he's never been an offensive coordinator at the collegiate level.
Right.
And so, but we just shot ourselves in the foot on offense.
Yeah, for sure.
We would have some big plays, and then we would have some penalties or offsides, holding, and it would just kill any type of momentum
or
we
you
had.
get going and then you get a sack, and it's just like the sacks are the bad part, because here's the thing:
they're very obvious in the second half.
Rattler got so much flack last year for his play, and then he turned it on at the end of the year, and then we've heard about he's still looking like the guy he was at the end of the year here in the offseason. And the thing is he still looked like that guy last night. He threw for 350 yards. He didn't throw any interceptions.
He was 30 of 39, 353 yards. Key thing is 9 sacks for 65 yards.
Yeah, he got sacked 9 times. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you can just 350 yards, 30 of 39, like that's a great game.
We had
no interceptions, unfortunately, no touchdowns, but 9 sacks.
We had -2 rushing yards last night. I don't care.
First of all, we didn't run. We can't run the ball.
I mean, I agree. We cannot run the ball, but like DeCarrion Joyner had 12 rush attempts for 23 yards.
Right.
Xavier Leggett, Mullins product, area team we covered. Great game. You couldn't ask more from.
Right.
That's the type of game we needed, and not even specifically to Xavier Leggett, but somebody outside of Juice Wells.
Yeah.
Like Trey Knox, only 2 receptions. Luke Doty, 3 catches for 41 yards.
Exactly. And here's the thing: is I think Luke Doty's going to end up being a game. He's a gamer.
Yeah.
He's going to be like that Wes Welker type, that Julian Edelman type. He's not going to go up and get the deep ball. He's not going to go and like jump over somebody.
Yeah.
But you get him on that little slant, and he catches the ball, and he can go for and make a big play out of that. But we got to definitely have, like you said, it's got to be somebody outside of Juice, because one, Juice didn't even play, or didn't play much.
He was more of like a decoy,
right,
for like 2 plays, for like 2 drives.
And then you don't have your all world 5-star player that came in with Nicholas Harbor. I think
injured.
He played 1 play. We knew that he had an injury
blocking.
coming in.
It was a lot of soft tissue stuff,
right? And they could just be wanting to take it easy on those guys. You would much rather have them for the long haul than to throw them out there injured in game 1 and just extend that injury.
But I mean, next week's no slouch. I mean, I know it's Furman, but like they're no slouch.
Well, for one, we got to find some continuity. You got to say these are our 5 linemen.
Yeah.
That's who we're rolling with.
We had a lineman go down.
Or this.
Yeah, we had a lineman go down. And it was one of the earlier drives where we were moving the ball, and his knee got twisted up or something. It's I think the point in the game where I realized, like, okay, we're probably in trouble is the start of the second half.
Yeah.
Coach Beamer had some choice words for the chain gang. He's
right.
like, they were more concerned with eating their hot dogs than getting ready for the second half, because they had to wait.
Yeah.
The teams were on the field ready to go, but the chain gang wasn't out there. We get the onside kick, then we go 4 and out. We go for it on 4th down.
And I like the gutsy call.
Yeah.
We're special teams wise, that's point, always been a good thing for South Carolina since Beamer's been there, special teams, and that's what, the Beamers are known for.
Yeah. And at that point in the game, you have to do something because your defense is probably not going to stop them.
Right.
They're coming out, they take the lead. We don't score in our last drive before the end of the half. You got to try to get some momentum on our side, and that was it. That was the play that was the drive that could have changed the game.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was a costly drop by Amarian Brown.
It's just there was so many things that went wrong. It just wasn't even pleasurable to watch.
No pressure. And back to our offensive line, North Carolina was mostly rushing 3 players.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's not like they were bringing 7.
Sometimes if you're being rushed, it's one thing to stand in the pocket and still be able to deliver the ball. But when it's only 3 guys rushing, that's leaving 8 in coverage.
Yeah.
If they're dropping linebackers and they're have their defensive backs and they're only rushing 3. First of all, if you're getting pressure with 3 and you got to try and throw the ball against 8 guys, it's just not going to happen.
We had 0 sacks.
Yeah,
none.
The offensive line and defensive line are just huge question marks, and we knew that coming in, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
And like we said in our high school show, I wish some of these offensive line commits for next year would just show up.
Yeah, just come on now.
We need it, man. And I think that's another thing. Like, let's be real. Like, for majority of the season last season, this is how we looked.
Right.
Those 3 games it raised our expectations because we know what this team is capable of. But we also, we lost a lot, and it's easy to overreact after that game because we're better than what we played at. But that seems to be the thing that keeps being said or happening under Beamer. Like, we never start out the season great, and the season doesn't get any easier for us.
No.
We still have Georgia and Tennessee to play this month, and they're both away.
Yeah, those are losses. Unless something changes.
I mean, Furman's going to be a loss.
It's kind of tough because, North Carolina was 20 or 21 in the rankings, but they could, these preseason rankings, you never know. A team that's ranked 20th could actually be a top 5 team.
Like, outside the top 10, I really don't take preseason rankings too seriously because a lot of the times it's just about the team name.
Right, exactly.
Like, I don't understand how Oklahoma won big this weekend, but they stunk last year, and they were preseason ranked 20th.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell because, like I said, North Carolina, they did play an ACC championship game. We knew their defense was the
big question mark.
But obviously, they've gotten better. I think they've improved. We made them look like they made a bigger improvement than maybe they probably really have.
Yeah. And Beamer tried to address the offensive line issue in the offseason with the portal.
Right.
But they didn't come to us.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, if you're a good enough coordinator, you can scheme up the plays that fit what your team can do. And that starts with, what can my linemen do?
Yeah, if
they can't do certain things, don't call those plays.
But it's also, the line has to do their part in blocking. Like, if you can't run plays that are to help them if they're just not even giving us time to throw the ball.
Yeah, they definitely got to make some improvements this week. And again, I think that's by saying these are our 5 guys. This is how we're going to scheme it up to, make certain plays work. Let's just don't open up the whole playbook. Let's just say, all right, let's focus on these plays or these schemes and build off of that. But like you said, we came out the gate on a trick play. I mean, that's not establishing anything, kind of.
I just don't get it because there was another drive where it was a trick play. It was they put Rattler out at the receiver.
Yeah.
Brought Leggett in, direct snap to DK, and we lost 5 yards.
Yeah.
So you're already behind before you're even going on your offense drive, and it just sets up your drive for failure majority of the time.
Yeah.
And it's like we couldn't get any rhythm going because it was either trick plays that maybe just didn't work, penalties, blocking.
Trick plays, man, it's either admitting, all right, we can't do what we want to do with normal plays, or it's either I'm beating you so bad and we're going to throw some trick plays at you. That's the way that I see trick plays. Like, they hardly ever just come when, in a game like that where it's like, all right, we can move the ball and then we do a trick play. It's just like, all right, I'm admitting to you right now. It's like I'm trying to do anything.
It's like the bowl game against North Carolina. Right. I feel like we had to do the trick plays to kind of.
And it worked then. Yeah. But it was just a lot of trick plays.
Yeah.
Like when you come in and you run one trick play right here, they just key in on something,
And another thing is they knew we didn't have a run game.
Right.
And
that's not a knock on Dakereon, even though
no, but he's not a true running back.
He's
not
not
a traditional running back.
It's tough to say, okay, you've played quarterback your whole life, now go be a running back. And not only that, go be a running back in the SEC.
And I think, honestly, he could have had a better game if we just blocked for him.
Here's the thing. He's dynamic. He definitely put on a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he looks more like a running back. He really does. But if nobody's blocking for him, none of that matters.
Back there. You put George Rogers back there in his prime. I mean, you know, and I know it's, I don't know. I just don't know what to say. Like, it's a very big overreaction, I feel. We still have 11 games. But, like I said, our schedule doesn't get any easier. So it's like, you know, this game was always going to be a toss-up about who was going to win. I was away on a bachelor party this weekend, and one of the guys, they're all from Virginia, and wanted to bet. I was like, I don't know, man. This line I don't like.
I knew this coming
I was like,
in.
if anything, bet the over. The over didn't even hit.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Sorry, Paul.
I knew this is how the game was going to go when, like I said earlier, when Beamer came out on that Wednesday and said, we ain't practiced good. All right, well, we ain't going to win then.
Yeah.
Like, if your coach is coming out, the practice must have been so bad that he was so frustrated that he got in front of a mic and said, we didn't, I'm just going to be honest, we're not practicing good. All right, well, we're toast right here.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not practicing good, you're definitely not going to come out and play good.
No, and it's kind of what Spurrier used to do in the preseason. It's like, you know, our receivers couldn't catch cold in a snowstorm. Our quarterback couldn't even hit you know, our indoor practice facility.
Which I guess his comments kind of spurred them to have a little bit better practice the next day. But, man, if you got to Wednesday and you're having bad practice, I mean, you're pretty much wrapping it up on a Thursday anyways.
Yeah, but this game's not on Rattler. Rattler did not make many bad decisions, which is what plagued them last season.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, we kind of had the same issues starting out the gate last year, and I think he was just trying to do too much. But, I mean, man, he didn't make many bad decisions.
Yeah, he looked like the Rattler that was playing at the end of the year.
What we expected of him when he came here.
Without the touchdowns, obviously. But like you said, he didn't make any bad decisions.
Yeah.
He didn't force it. He didn't force the ball whenever he was just trying to make something happen. He took what the game gave him, 30 or 39. 350 passing yards.
Yeah.
The big thing is like no interceptions. And you did all that while being put on the ground 9 times.
Yeah.
And that's just when they got him on the ground. That ain't when he did get rid of the ball or got out of the pocket.
There was one play, and this goes to targeting. That targeting replay they did on our, I think it was Fortune. I can't remember who the DB was for us. But it was on the first drive, I think, for North Carolina. And the running back lowered his head. And there's nothing our guy can do. Yeah. I'm glad they made the right call that it was not targeting, because it's not like you have to be able to protect.
At some point, you got to start calling targeting on the offensive players as well. Like if they're lowering their head to come at you,
and there wasn't even a targeting penalty.
Right? It's
But the next drive when we scored, I think it was the next drive when we scored, the North Carolina D lineman, from what it looked like to me, went helmet to helmet with Spencer.
Yeah.
But there was no review. I didn't even know that was reviewable without a penalty being called.
Yeah. It's all over the place.
And how about the commercials, man? My God. I feel like there was 1,000 commercials in that game last night. Jeez, Spectrum already took the channels away.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about Spectrum, but let's wrap up the Gamecocks. Overall, it was very disappointing.
Yeah.
For one, is because of how we finished last year. Yeah, we lost the bowl game, but it was still a good game. Yeah. We played well. We knew that we were missing players, that opted out. But it was still like, all right, you beat Tennessee, you beat Clemson, you played extremely well in your bowl game.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, we're back to square one again.
The season's not over, but
definitely not. But it's just like, all right, we had momentum, and then we had the recruiting this past year. Everybody was all excited about the recruits that we're getting, and then it's like, all right, well, we look like game 1 of last year.
Yeah, and another thing, I think it just is me realizing that how lack of depth we have when Beamer took over. And it takes, at least 3 to 4 recruiting cycles to get,
for sure,
not your guys in, but it's like, with the day and age of like the transfer portal and everything, majority of the time you're going to lose players from your recruiting classes. Yeah. And it's like getting players in. So, it doesn't excuse anything, but it's like, I think next year or hopefully the next season, like we have that good quality of depth where it's like, if somebody goes down and, Jalen Kilgore did very good, replacing Emanwari.
Yeah.
It's kind of how Emanwari started last year.
Right. Yep, just kind of came in.
The guy got hurt. He came in and never came off the field.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Jalen Kilgore, but I mean, he played pretty good for what he was put into.
Yeah. Again, it's still definitely a rebuild.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
But,
it's the same conversation we have every year.
Yeah.
After Carolina football, because it's the same issues. It's not like it's something new every week.
And unfortunately, you do. They put you in these high profile games to start the season off. When you probably could have benefited from
everybody's playing Mercer or Tennessee State or Portland State.
You'd probably see a completely different game, honestly, if we flip these games between Furman and North Carolina. If you played Furman week 1, and again, no slouch against Furman, they're a good team for where they are at.
They're ranked,
but if you flip those and you kind of have like that starter game where you can work on some of these kinks and then go into the North Carolina game, I think you see a completely different game. But you throw them,
And North Carolina's not a bad team. They're a really, really good team.
They have an extremely good offense, and if their defense has improved like what they showed, again, we obviously assisted in that showing.
Yeah.
But I think they've definitely improved. You get 17 sacks last year, and even though our offensive line isn't the best, 9 sacks, that's like you obviously made an improvement.
Like North Carolina, this was North Carolina stats from last season on defense. They surrendered almost 31 points a game and allowed 436.5 yards per game. We didn't even get close to that. No. But again, I don't know if that's just a mixture of maybe they did improve in the offseason.
They definitely made an improvement.
And, they just forced us to pass the ball the whole time because they knew we're not going to be able to run. And then, again, you hate to keep going back to the offensive line, but
that's where it starts. Yeah, that's where it starts. If you can't block, then you can't run or pass.
If you can't get pressure on the quarterback, they're just going to pick you apart. I mean, he did. He nickel and dimed us the entire game. And he made it look easy.
Yeah.
There weren't many, outside the interceptions, he didn't make many,
Right.
He didn't, have any issues.
Yeah, I think going into Furman this week, we definitely need to work on a lot. I think hopefully we just see some improvement.
Hopefully Juice Wells is 100% healthy.
That's the other thing. Let's get our athletes in here because even though you may not have as much time, if you only got one guy to go to in Leggett versus, having Juice, having Harbor, having, Brown, all these players where, all right, we know we can't block long enough to run the deeper routes. Let's nickel and dime them.
Yeah.
So, that's going to open up the big passes. And
also when you get down, you can't, do these nickel and dimes or like little short routes across the middle or whatnot. You have to go downfield. And we still did a great job, but then once we, again, like we said earlier, got that momentum, then there's 2 sacks allowed.
Exactly.
And it's like then you've just lost all momentum that you've had with that drive.
Right. So, well, hopefully they improve this week. Normally this is when we would get into Clemson, but they ain't played.
I'm still pessimistic about this season. We suck.
Yeah.
I'm done.
A bowl game would be great.
We're 5-7 or 6-16.
Anything over that?
We overachieved last year. There's games we won last season we had no business winning.
And there will be a game this year that we win that we have no business winning. Kentucky. It might not be like that Tennessee or Clemson.
No, we deserve to win those. Like I'm talking like the Kentucky and A&M games. Like we benefited off like fluke plays in the A&M game. Kind of the same thing with Kentucky. Not really a fluke game, but because then our offense didn't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of the offense from last year, Marcus Satterfield. Whew.
Yeah, rough game for him.
I was seeing some message boards post. South Carolina wins this week against Furman before we get into Satterfield.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully it's a wide margin because we need some confidence before we get
because
even tougher
just,
games.
They put out all these hype videos, which I love. But it's like you've got to be able to put the product on the field to get people, because with the NIL era, like people are pouring their hard-earned money to get these athletes to the school, and then you put that product out there last night, and it's like it's hard to stay motivated sometimes. Again, I know we're overreacting. It's week 1, but like that sucked to see last night. I was hoping for more.
Yeah, it's but again, it really didn't bother me because whenever he said that thing about practice, I knew I had zero expectations, so I just went on to bed.